Are we in the broadcast now? Okay, there we are.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lunch and Learn with our graphic designer, Sydney Wright. Just a little background on Sydney. She has a graphic design degree from Brigham Young University, Idaho. Sydney's been doing design professionally for 6 years and recreationally for almost 10. She specializes in typography and layout design, and she is an expert in crafting visually appealing and easy to communicate presentations. In her free time, Sydney enjoys watching movies with her family, designing and crafting for her own brand, and snuggling with her English bulldog. And just a reminder before I turn the time over to Sydney, we are going to be doing boot camps after lunch, starting at 1 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And we'll be giving away $20 gift cards. There'll be a drawing in every boot camp for a $20 gift card. So swing on by to see those. All right, I'm going to turn the time over to Sydney.
Thank you so much, Rochelle. Hi, everyone. As Rochelle said, I'm the graphic designer for StuKent. I've been designing with StuKent specifically for the last 2.5 years, so I've been here for a while, but this is my first time presenting in front of our awesome audience and customers and amazing professors, so bear with me. I'm not a professor. I'm not used to being in front of an audience, but I am an expert in my field. So if there are any questions along the way, please feel free to use the chat. I will be referencing it often. I will be, because my presentation is a little bit different where I'm teaching design, I'm going to design as we go through the presentation. Because I'm a visual learner, and so I hope this can help you guys learn as well just by visually watching. I will be creating my lecture slide in Google Slides. I know a lot of people use PowerPoint, and I feel like Google Slides has done a really good job to almost mimic PowerPoint for everyone who is used to using PowerPoint, but then it's also a little bit simplified. So if you're not used to using Google Slides for creating your presentations for your classroom, just know a lot of the locations of settings are pretty similar. And so I hope this translates well for what you're used to. All right, so let's get started. My first slide is obviously blank. So when I'm creating presentation slides, I like to first think, okay, what is the outcome of this slide? The majority of you are probably professors, whether in high school or higher ed, you're most likely designing for your students. And you could be designing for the classroom, or you could be designing for slides that you send individually to your students. So there might be a little bit difference in how you want to go about those two different ways. So if you're wanting to design for your classroom, I would recommend doing less per page, larger font, extreme contrast, because more than likely you're probably going to be presenting with a projector, and those projector light bulbs don't usually love light colors or low contrast items. And by low contrast, I mean like and white paired together, or black and dark blue. Like those are too similar and they aren't easily distinguishable from each other. So I recommend above everything contrast when building your slides. So I'm going to plop in a background, and we're going to put in a really bold background. So as you can see right now, like I have a black text, and you can see it, but it's not amazing. So I'm going to change it to white, and then I'm going to type in getting started. Okay, I have a question. Is there a difference in designing for shooting a video for a flipped class versus in-class presentations? I don't know if I read that loud enough, but there a slight difference. I would say if you're designing for video, and this kind of applies to a lot of what I'm going to be talking about throughout, is less is more. If somebody is watching your video and they want to get, they're probably most likely wanting to listen to what you have to say and not reading the screen. And that's more often true in your classroom as well. So I would say less is more. Use your, when designing your screens, I would say like put your pull quotes on the screen. If you have specific images that you want for like a wow factor, put that on your screen. But if you're designing for, like, say you do want the students to read the material and you're not there really presenting the material, I would say putting more text on each slide is just fine, because it's more relatable to a textbook or like a blog. Whereas if you're presenting the material, I would say less on the screen and more words, because more than likely the students are taking notes while they're watching your video or in your classroom. And so it's hard to write a paragraph of notes and listen. So just try to put, I guess, bullet points is like key. And I will like design that up right now. I have this all typed up, so I'm I'm going to do a copy and paste. And that keyboard shortcut is Command C, Command V, for anyone who doesn't know computers super well. And I'm going to go ahead and up the size of this too, because we're presenting on a video, so I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing. And also I'm assuming I'm up in this corner. Okay, I'm getting more questions. Hang on, let me read through this real fast. I'll explain a lot about the slides. Design classroom presentations. We have tips on online presentations. Yes, I will do tips for online presentations. Less is more. What's a good suggestion for balancing a slide with limited content, visual or written? The most info conveyed verbally versus students who want lots of details on the slide. I would say, sorry, I'm kind of like reading through this fast because I want to be able to get through all my stuff. But if you have a lot of information and you are passing the slides on to your students, I would say it's okay to put that information on there, but maybe use hierarchy, a lot of hierarchy, and we're going to go into that a little bit more. So that students know that they don't have to write down the full paragraph that you put on there. Like, it's important, and you can pass it on to them to read later, but maybe put like a few bullet points from the paragraph or a pull quote from the paragraph or the main points that you want them to get out of the paragraph, at least somewhere on that slide. And you can have that section out however you want, but hierarchy is the best thing, and you can do that easily just with typography. And I'm going to get into that right here. So I'm actually going to stretch this over. I don't know why, but I like to left justify things. So hierarchy, what I mean by that is I've got a title up here, getting started. That is the number one thing I want my students or my audience to see, so you know the general idea of what the slide is about. My bullet point here, decide outcome of slide presentation. That's like, I don't know, the next step of what I want them to write in their notes, or the next step of what I want them to understand from this specific slide. And so another thing that we've gotten into is where we are, teachers. it keeps putting black tiny text. With font, I like to make my slides easily readable. So I like to use a sans serif font. Right here, I'm using Helvetica. This one's real white. When you're creating with PowerPoint or even Google Slides, they have auto-chosen typefaces for you to use. And more times than not, they're usually a good choice. They're like they've already got an auto-chosen like bold for my title. And then my secondary is still pretty bold, but I also wanted it that way because I do have a colorful background. If you have a brand or an aesthetic you like to stay with, it's fine to branch out from that. But just remember, thin fonts and widely stretched out fonts are not great reading on a projector. Curvy fonts, whether it's your title or not, I wouldn't advise it for presentation. I would recommend just the basic sans serif. If it's in your aesthetic to do a serif font, a really basic, let's see if I can find one. A basic. We've got what is this one called? Laura. Anyways, so that's a little bit on that. I'm probably gonna go over the similar things as I go on, but I just want to be able to like show what I'm talking about and how I repeat a lot of things in similar slides. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on another slide. And Rochelle, if you do see a couple questions or notes that come up that I'm missing, feel free to like chat me to say, hey.
And we can choose, if you want to, we can save some time at the end and I'll just keep track of questions. You can cover them then as well if that works for you.
Yeah. Okay. I want to be able to like get to people's concerns in real time, but I mean, honestly, we're going to be going over similar things throughout, so hopefully I'll be able to answer questions throughout, but
okay,
there will be a Q&A at the end, so.
We can do both too.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm going to choose another background, and I'm going to do a simple one this time around. I don't really have a rhyme or reason to when I do backgrounds. Typically, I like to save the bolder ones for like my opening page, like my getting started page, and I might even consider this to be bigger. I know a lot of people like to put like the bullet points of what all you're going to be learning throughout the lesson at the beginning, like what we'll learn today, or like chapter 5, and then have like each section of the chapter that you're going over listed. I don't have that today, but that is an option, and typically that's what I would do with the bolder background, because then you can break up your body of your presentation with these bold backgrounds so that your students and your audience can know, okay, we're switching gears. Let me like make note in my notes that we're in a new section. It's just a visual cue, whether you have it listed on the page or not. Visual cues are nice. Okay, and I guess we're just gonna go with this one again. Okay, so now I'm gonna change it up and I'm gonna do a more of a blank background, and we're gonna start talking about, I guess we've already talked about a lot of this, but we're gonna just kind of delve into it a little bit more. I mentioned before when you're presenting, I should probably stop copy and pasting because it just keeps. I got Helvetica before. Anyways, but sorry, I'm like trying to focus on this and talk. Okay. Condensing your information, and this is only based on whether your outcome is presenting in front of a classroom or like someone mentioned before with video. Did I even spell that wrong? I'd say, yeah, less is more. And we already talked about this, but we like to condense with pull quotes. And those, I like to do pull quotes a little bit more designed too. And if you can include like an image of who gave the quote, that's nice too. But always credit and, you know, do the right formatting for quotes. If you do have a lot of information and it will end up being a word vomit on your screen, it's okay to break it up. You can, if you like to include page numbers on your presentation, you can say like page number or even the section. And I should probably get into that too, but section dash continued or something like that. So there's like a visual cue of like, this is still the same information that we were going over before, but because it is a lot of text, we're breaking it up into multiple slides. And by doing that, oh, I guess I'll go into that. And we can add one right here. I'm going to add another text box, and we're going to say Sydney Wright slides dash. This is 2. Repetition is nice. Alignment is nice. And I have like a whole slide on what those are in just a moment. So repetition is, so we've got Sydney Wright slides 2. We also want that to be on this page so that people know, hey, we're still covering the same subject even. And I even have ProfCon 20 here up in the side so that if there is any information shared in my presentation, that you know to hashtag ProfCon 20 so that we can see it on Twitter. Let's see, Marcy says, I tell my students that page numbers are key to their presentation to facilitate discussion. I have them for ones I present in my class, but not ones for in my video. Yeah, I would say page number doesn't quite matter so much in video because if you're talking through each slide, it's kind of hard to, it's easier to refer back to like a timestamp in the video, like, hey, go watch from minute 3 to minute 5, than it would be to say, hey, go look at page number 2 slide in my video. But if you are sending the slides to your students, I would say page number is a good idea, so that it's easy to refer to instead of like maybe, hey, go look at the blue page. I've got some good information on there, and there's like 3 blue pages. Okay. Condense information, and then I haven't talked about adding imagery to your slides yet, but if you are adding images to your slides, more often than not, it's supposed to add to your information, so you do want it to take up a bit of space and be a focal point. Images are always going to end up being the first thing people look at. It's going to end up being the focal point. If you don't want it to be the focal point, don't add it, because if it's tiny, whether if it's tiny or not, it's gonna end up being a focal point. Like, it's gonna be the first thing people want to look at, like, hey, what's that picture doing on this slide? Like, we haven't had a picture in 3 slides. But you, more often than not, you want it to like add to your information. Like, boom, I see a picture of, let's see, I have pictures. A couple looking at a computer. Now, is my picture relevant to what I'm talking about right now? Not really, but it's also not too distracting. So it doesn't, I don't know. It adds. I mean, I guess I have like a blank space, so it adds, but just know when adding in your photos, it will be the first thing people look at. So take that information however you want. And then I'm even going to go into saying if there is a photo and everything in the photo is the important information and you don't really have much to add on to it, I would say make that picture the only thing on the slide. So let me add another background just because I like to have visual backgrounds. You don't have to. Google and PowerPoint have really good preloaded backgrounds, and they also have really good layouts that pair well with those backgrounds. But if you don't really care for the fuss of backgrounds or having to make your it's too big, I think. Make your slides extremely pretty, that's fine. Honestly, a white background and just making sure that you're creating hierarchy with your text, your repeated information, and photos, and I think you're good. Anyway, so as I was saying about photos, if you want the only, if the important information is the photo, make it take up the whole slide. And if you would like to like expound on each section of the slide, you can create, like on this slide in particular, there is room to expound on. Like I can make notes here on the side and point, make an arrow. Like here, we'll use line. Right, so there's an arrow. We'll use a line to talk about line. We'll see. Line helps create division. I can't even spell. So I'm a designer and not a writer. In your art. Anyways, but if you want to go ahead and do that, that's fine. But just know, like I said before, photos are most likely going to be the first thing people look at. So it's not a bad idea to even have this information up here. You can create like, let me remember how to do this. A transition, that's what I'm looking for. Slides. So like I can have it up here on click. So if I do want to put in my own 2 cents on each of these elements of design, I can have them lined up, but not have a word vomit on the screen. Just have them appear as I talk about them. So that helps too. Use the tools to us. I will say that tip works for that guy, but might not work for this image. Also, try to weed out your images before you present them. So as you can see, this is pretty much the same image as this last one, but this last one is a clear image because it's a larger image, and this one's small, and I like expounded on it. Now it's small and blurry, and you can hardly see it on my small screen. And imagine if it was on a large screen. So make sure you weed out your photos. If it's going to be blurry, don't use it. Either try to recreate it or search for more like a larger or clearer one, because this is going to be no use in a classroom because you can't read like any of this information right here, and you can kind of sort of read this information. Anyways, so just make sure you weed out your photos before presenting them. And it's not a bad idea to practice presenting your whole presentation in an empty classroom or, you know, for yourself. Because, like, I thought this image would be big enough and it wasn't. So I have to weed it out. But I will say, if you have images that have less text, that's ideal. And then you can talk through everything. But anyways, images are good. It helps create a break in your presentation. But it also helps explain your thought process, I guess. And I'm going to add the same background because we like repetition. I know we talked about, let's see, what else do we need to talk about? Notes. Okay. So let's start another slide, and I'm actually going to model after this one. Copy and paste is my best friend. Command C, Command V. So I know that I want to get into a new section. So I'm starting with a bright color, but I've already got my layout pretty well established in this slide. So I'm just going to copy and paste the slide and just put new information on there. That will save you a lot of time instead of having to go through and recreate everything. So now we're going to talk about layout just a little bit. And I've already been demonstrating this, but alignment is probably going to be your best friend. And let's see where I've been using this. Alignment, I liked, because slides are mostly going to be with text. These programs make it really easy to keep your alignment. So like if I accidentally move this over here, like all of a sudden my alignment it's just gone. But there are guides that help me align, and it's not showing up here on the left. But it kind of like auto aligns for you. There's kind of like a little bit of a give when you get to the right alignment. But here in the center, you can see there's a red line that says, hey, you have your text box directly centered on the screen, and that's key. But I don't really want that far over. Oh, here's a good example. I'm like shrinking this text box down, and it catches where the left-hand side of my bottom text box is, so that now I know those are perfectly left aligned. Okay, so alignment is your friend. Repetition, which we've gone into repetition quite a bit, where we're repeating here on our page number, which this is number 5, technically speaking, and we've got repetition with our hashtag up here. I didn't even spell it right. I'm not a writer, I promise. I don't write for student. We have good writers, and they check all my spelling. Contrast, which we've gone into, and we're creating again with our white text on top of a dark background. Hierarchy, where we've got a larger, bolder font here at the top, so we know that's our number 1. Balance, and this one, you can either go with a symmetrical balance, or a tension balance. And I'm going to show you on the previous image what that means if you don't quite understand. So symmetry is like 1, 2, 3 over here, 1, 2, 3 over here. Like right here, we've got perfect symmetry. There's 1, 2, 3 on the top, 1, 2, 3 on the bottom. Balanced tension is like a really good example here is they've got a really big dark, or not dark, I guess it's light, a big circle here in the top corner, but a small circle in the bottom corner. The big circle takes up more space, but because of the contrast, the small circle off on its own helps create that balance. And it's like, it's an eyeball thing. I feel like there's not a, there is a direct math with it. Like if you're familiar with the golden ratio, but I feel like when doing these presentation slides, I feel like symmetrical balance is always key. And even building slides, I don't know if you have to like focus on that too much. I'm going to make a new slide and kind of go into that. I've got a background already set up that has an example of tension symmetry or tension balance. So here on the left-hand side, I've got this big block, but it doesn't take up half the page. It takes up about a little over a third of the page. And then here on the right-hand side, I've got the ProfCon logo. So like in the size, they don't balance out. But because the ProfCon logo is surrounded by white space, it like holds it down. I don't know. It's like a weird eyeball visual thing, but your brain likes it. So we roll with it. And there's probably a way better explanation to it. Do we get a copy of the presentation slides of the sessions we attended? I don't have an answer to that question. I don't know all of those answers, but I believe if you, I'm not sure. Rochelle might be able to answer that one. Joyce says, I don't use slides very often, and this is amazing. I had no idea how much information was canned into Google Slides. Yeah, Google Slides, it's basic and I love it. And I love the fact that I can share a link of my slide to like a colleague and just say, hey, can you look this over, instead of having to like download a whole presentation, email it over. You know, it's like, hey, this is a working working file. Like, come observe me, you know, working in this file and like give me pointers if you need me to. I really love doing that with my team. And I love creating just like base slides. Like I'll create the backgrounds and choose the font pairings and everything for presenters. So all they have to do is go in and, you know, add their stuff. So it's really nice because yeah, it's just really nice. Okay. I'm going to add another photo just because I feel like it. And we've kind of gone over everything that I've planned to talk about. So if there are any questions, specifically on, I don't know, maybe even the program, like I can probably help you with the program. If you have questions there, or specific design questions that I didn't go into. I wanted to be a little bit more basic and just kind of showing you how I do my process and how easy it is to translate to your classroom. I'm trying to think through if there's anything else. Speaker notes are awesome. I didn't have any on this presentation because I've been building it as you've been watching, but that's a great way to have a lot of information in the program, but only showed like that bite-sized information for your students and your audience on your screen. So you can have like a whole paragraph down here, like delving into like the imagery going on or something. Okay. Rochelle, have you seen any questions that I didn't answer throughout, or any
Did
interesting
you? I know
questions
one
that
person
I
asked
guess the
about.
audience would benefit from me answering?
Yeah, we had one person ask about
Let's see. When a
recommendations
colleague
for
makes a
where.
change, does it tell you what they changed? In Google Slides, it doesn't give you a notification, but you can go here into, there's this little link right here. It says all changes saved in Drive. You can click that, and on this right hand tab, it shows the timeline of stuff. So when it was created, current version, and you can click back to that original version and it will take you there. Like this was earlier today. Well, there's nothing like, but you can either restore to this version, like if I hated my slide and I want to start over, but like I don't want to have to create a whole new file to save out, you can push this restore this version. But if you want to keep like popping through and seeing like, okay, so and so made this change, so and so made this change, you can look in here. It doesn't notify you and like leave little, well, I guess it kind of does, it leaves you little notes. I haven't played in this too much, but yeah,
Hey,
it does.
Sydney?
And it's really helpful. I didn't know that it like, and I think you can like turn off those things or they'll go away. Okay, well, it kind of went away. Oh wow, it shows every little thing. Guys, I'm like learning new things with you. It shows every little thing. Cool. So now I want to copy this because we want to repetition. Oh, come on. Oh, wait, I'm just kidding. I'm still in the version history. My bad. Okay. You can't design when you're in this linked page. It looked like I could, but I couldn't. But it shows everything. So that's good. Copy, paste, and this is slide 6. When I use this like off-centered asymmetrical type of slide, I like to put my text on the white space side and save this side either for like special notes or a pulled quote or an image, but you can do the opposite. Like we could totally swap this over here. I just feel like there isn't as much room here, so I can't make my font as big. Because I guess if you have like a larger image, but you don't want it to take up the whole screen, this kind of layout works really well for that. And then I'm going to change it to be white. So now I've got contrast, and this is hanging off the edge. I forgot to talk about one thing, proximity. It is totally okay to not be right on the edge of your slide because their screen sizes are going to be different. And if you're presenting this, it's okay to be a little bit more centered on your design in case there are screen issues. And I know this is a bigger thing with cell phones than with computers because computers typically have a little bit more of like a rectangular, like 1920 by 1080 kind of situation. But with cell phones, I've noticed, especially in the TikTok app, like if you have a bigger phone and you design your text all the way out to the edge of your screen, people with smaller phones, it doesn't like auto adjust to your screen size. It just cuts it off. and so you're missing out on text. So just be mindful of your proximity and don't be too close to your edges.
Hey, Sydney, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
We did have a question earlier. Do you have a site that you would recommend for them to find graphics and icons?
Yeah, there's a lot of sites. I use Adobe Stock because I do have Adobe Creative Cloud, and it pairs really well with the programs I use for designing. These particular graphics are from a different site, and it's called Humans with like, I think it has like 3 N's. And they're only people, but they're really nice for if you just want to have a visual something in your slides. For really visually appealing photographs, I like to use the website Unsplash. Let me put this in the...
Yeah, if you want to put a couple of those in the chat.
Yeah, and let me find the actual address for... I think I'm spelling it right. For the little people.
Is there a free icon library that you would recommend as well?
I bop around to a bunch of different ones, and I've been creating a lot of my own for a while, but there's so many. Like a quick Google search will lead you to a bunch. Like even if you go on Pinterest and look up icons, a lot of people create their own, and you can find some that match your aesthetic and your just something that appeals to you pretty quick. And usually those are either free or cheap to buy. Like I know a lot of people on Etsy sell icons like really cheap. So those are a few. I'm trying to think if I know one that's like really... We've been using one called, I'm pretty sure it's called, let me find it real fast. Nova Icons, and I don't think that's free, but they have a huge library. If you do find yourself always using icons and know that you are I don't know, it's going to be worth it for you, then I would invest in like a good set. But usually if you invest in them, they are a little bit higher quality, and there's usually more, and they usually include multiple file types. So if you're used to working with JPEGs versus PNGs versus PDFs or any of that, they typically have a little bit more diversity in file types. Anyways.
So I know that, we also have a question about flowchart templates.
Yeah, I just saw them come in. Flowchart templates. I create my own flowcharts, but there's a lot of really good examples also on Adobe Stock. I usually just, I don't know, I like to use Adobe Stock just for like the simplicity of I don't know. It attaches really easily from their website to my programs. So I like them.
Yes. I know we had a couple questions about ADA compliance in here. Sydney, where she's our graphic designer, does not really specialize in the ADA compliance. We don't have our officer on this one, or I would have her get on and speak a little bit to that. But as far as design questions, Sydney will be our expert in that area. We do create a lot of our own custom backgrounds for slides that go along with the book covers and the overall design of the books. Is there any other advice that you would give people, sort of closing remarks, as far as designing and presentations?
I would say don't stress about it. I feel like the key is just making sure that your key points are on the slide. Like your most important information, your biggest takeaways that you want people to get. If you go off on tangents when you are presenting, like if the student wants to take down that information, they will, but just make sure that you're like visually presenting and creating those visual cues for your students. Yeah.
Okay, and did
I feel
you
like that's
post
like the best
your
way.
information if they wanted to reach out to you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm just Sydney Wright on LinkedIn. I don't know. I tried to see what my handle was on there. If it's not just at Sydney Wright, one word, it might be Sydney Dash Wright. I do have shorter hair in my profile picture, but I've got Stu Kent stuff all over my profile page, so you'll know it's me.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Sydney. We appreciate that. Just as a reminder, at 1 o'clock Mountain Daylight Time, which is about a little over an hour from now, we will be doing the Mimic boot camps. And in those boot camps, at each boot camp, we'll be doing a $20 gift card drawing. So whichever one you go to, you have a chance to win a $20 gift card. And as far as the rest of the schedule goes for the day, we'll be posting updates in the feed if you have questions on the main feed in the lobby. Thanks again, Sydney, and great work.
Thank you.